Making $100,000 a year as a photographer is an amount of money that most photographers feel like is impossible, and I completely disagree with that. I think it definitely is possible. You just have to do things differently than most photographers do. In fact, you can't be a photographer, you have to be a business person in order to make this happen. And that's the main switch. And once you do that, you'll be able to follow these three-step process that I'm going to cover in this video and have a much higher likelihood of breaking that 100K milestone. And here's the thing, 100K is just the beginning. I believe that as a photographer, or more accurately as someone building a photo business, just as any other business, the sky is the limit. And so on this video, I'm going to break down the 3 things that you need to start with that will position you to be able to make that 100K. Step number 1 is you have to pick a niche as a photographer. And I know this is advice that you've probably heard before, but here's the reason it's so important. And honestly, it's scary, and so most people don't do it. But the reason it's important is because if you're just trying to shoot every job that comes your way, maybe it's weddings, portraits, product, food, real estate, whatever it is, you're going to spend a lot of time in sort of a scatterbrain mode where you're developing a moderate skill set in a bunch of different categories, but you never focus on one deep enough to, number 1, understand properly how to shoot the product that your clients in that niche want. But number 2, and more importantly, you will not figure out how to properly market to that client base, at least at a level deep enough to be able to get to that 100K level. It takes a certain amount of understanding that you really just can't get if you're constantly trying to learn different things in different areas. And besides that, you have to own a ton of different gear if you're trying to shoot a ton of different niches, and you just do what most photographers do, and you stay in this feast or famine mode, most of the time famine, where you're just waiting for jobs to come in, and you'll take every job that comes your way. And so the biggest change that most photo businesses need to make as they build their business and work towards that 100K goal is they actually have to say no first. They have to say no to everything except the niche that they want to shoot in, and it's scary and may cause a temporary decrease in the amount of money photographers make, and because of that, they let their immediate future and the couple months ahead prevent them from an opportunity of a much better life that they could have had in the future if they were willing to make that decision. I have an entire YouTube video on what to look for in a niche called How to Make Money as a Photographer in 2023, so check out that video. I'll link it below if you want to learn more what niche to pick, but niche is not the only thing. Number 2, and something that's also very, very important, is once you've picked a niche. So I shoot real estate. I think it's one of the better niches out there if your goal is to make money as a photographer, but maybe you don't want to do real estate. Doesn't matter. Once you've picked a niche, you need to model your business after photographers that are successful or have the goal you want, not photographers who are good or who on the surface seem to be the best, because those are 2 very different things. Oftentimes the best photographers don't have great business sense, and so they don't actually have a great business. And so if you model their workflow or what they teach or the psychology they have around business, you're modeling psychology that for their business hasn't proven successful. And so that's one of the biggest traps in this industry, is a lot of times the photographers that are teaching don't have great businesses, especially if they're really into the tech side of it or the workflow side. So if you see people that are really gear focused and really focused on workflow and the art side of it, it doesn't mean they are doing anything wrong. It just means that if you want to build a $100,000 a year plus business, you don't want to model someone who has an $80,000 a year business. And that's oftentimes what happens in this industry. There's this really big phenomenon where it's the blind leading the blind. And I understand that this happens in a lot of different industries, but it's very common in photography. And I think it's one of the bigger reasons that most photographers don't make any money, because there's this idea out there that photographers are broke, that photographers don't get rich. And I don't believe that. I think you can build an amazing business as a photographer just like you can in any other industry. There are people that make millions of dollars selling toothpicks. So don't tell me that you can't do the same thing selling photos. You just have to be willing to do things differently than other people, and that's what's going to create different results. And that makes sense, right? If you model someone who doesn't have what you want, you're also going to get what you don't want. You have to really focus on getting what you want. So here's how you do this. You look up photographers in your area or photographers in a niche you're looking for. The most successful ones have a team. That's a great indicator that their business is successful. So if you're trying to make $100,000 a year, you could definitely do that as a solo photographer. It's going to be much harder to make $500,000 a year. And so if your goal is even bigger than 100K, maybe 100K and above, you really want to use the fact that they've been able to build a team, hopefully open multiple locations. But even if they haven't done multiple locations, you need to see that they have a team, because if they have a team, it means they've been able to support more than just themselves, and if their business model and the way they do things makes sense. So let's say you find a portrait photographer that owns 30 studios. It is a much better idea to model that portrait photographer's pricing, the way they structure things, the way everything looks, than it is to model the guy who is a really well-known solo portrait photographer. Because it's just a completely different thing. That guy, he may make $100,000 a year, but that is a lot different road. That's the artistic route, and it's kind of like professional sports. There's like 1% of people that really succeed. Where you want to go if you want to make money is the route that's like, hey, this guy has opened 30 branches or whatever. And so that's the first thing you want to look for when you see that. Next, what you want to look for is that they've been in business for a decent amount of time. You can build a business in a newer industry. It's just more difficult to find people who have been doing this that you can model that have proven it. And once you've picked a niche and found some people that you can look up to and model, number 3 is to not reinvent the wheel. So once you've found someone that's doing what you want to do and that has the result you want, I highly encourage you to just do what they're doing. First of all, there are a ton of great resources out there in almost every niche where you can learn from other business owners. In real estate photography, which is the industry that I chose, I have an awesome coaching program. So if you want to learn real estate, you should look at my coaching program. If you want to learn weddings, find someone else out there who has a great wedding business and has a coaching program and learn from them. But that's not the step. Step number 3 is that you have to actually do exactly what they say. Don't start reinventing the wheel or changing things a little bit here and there, because oftentimes business models work well together. So the pricing structure that I have works well with the clients that I target in the markets that I recommend. And so if you take one of those elements, and there's a lot more than that, if you take one of those elements out, you may actually break the business model by making just one small tweak. And so it's very important, until you have the result you're looking for, not to tweak things. Now, I'm not saying, if you're looking at my coaching program, for example, that I have the perfect only way to do things. I'm saying that my model fits together, and the other people out there who have similar programs also have a model that more than likely fits together, and each piece is a part of the puzzle. And if you're missing one of those pieces because you think I have a better way to do it, you oftentimes mess up the whole model. And this is really common. But what I would tell you is that if your goal is to make $100K a year, you don't have to do anything crazy, new, really groundbreaking. Like, none of that is required to make $100K a year. And so when you do this, if you could just take one piece of advice from this video, it's that number 3, the thing I'm talking about now, is the most important thing. Just do what they say. Don't overanalyze. Don't reinvent the wheel. And more importantly, just take actual steps towards building what they have, because you could be in the right niche and learn from the right person, but if you don't actually do what they say and actually take steps to implement it, you will never get the result. And that's sad, because there's a lot of people out there who know what niche to be in, they know what they want to do, and they know exactly who they want to model from, but they don't take steps because things stand in their way. They get scared, they come up with excuses, they buffer, and there's all these things. And so really, being successful as a photo business owner is not complicated. You just need to follow these 3 steps. If you've decided that real estate is the niche for you, and the business I have, Norman & Young, that operates in DFW with multiple employees and a scaled team, if that's your goal, if you want to build towards that, I would love the chance to share more with you about our coaching program and how we can help you achieve that goal. And the way to do that is by clicking the link below and submitting an application. And my team will reach out to discuss what we can help you with, if we think we can help you based upon that application. So I highly encourage you to fill out that application below and talk with my team and I. And if you haven't yet, I also have a workshop link below. It's an hour long, and it covers the 5-step process that I'd recommend if you want to get started as a real estate photographer. It's completely free. There's nothing to sell you in that. It will just ask you again at the end if you want to book a call. So I highly encourage you to check out those 2 resources and take action towards your goals, whether it's real estate photography, weddings, portraits, or whatever it is. The most important thing you can do is take the next step. And if it is real estate, I would love to help you take that next step. I'll see you in the next video.